Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into something pretty heavy. The end of a really difficult relationship. And one of the sources you brought in offers a very specific, maybe even provocative take on understanding that pain. So that's our focus.
Exactly. It sort of sidesteps the usual lost love narrative and reframes the whole thing quite starkly.
Yeah.
Our mission today is really just to unpack this particular viewpoint, see what it's saying about why someone might be feeling the way they are after a breakup like this.
Okay, so let's dive in.
Yeah.
The absolute core idea, the thing that really jumps out, is this. The source says you didn't lose love, you actually escaped a predator. I mean, that's really intense language.
It is intense, and it really hinges on what the text calls a parasitic relationship.
Parasitic.
Yeah, the idea being that what felt like love, or maybe started feeling like love, was actually a situation where your emotional energy was just being drained, not mutual, more like a one-way extraction.
Okay, draining energy. And the source digs into the partner, right? Says they weren't really a lover, but a manipulator, even a master of disguise.
Right. It paints this picture of like a charming facade that eventually crumbles, revealing something very different underneath the true self, as the text puts it.
So what kind of manipulation are we talking about? What does the source point to specifically?
Well, it talks about illusions, things like false promises, manufactured emotions, and calculated games. The suggestion is that it was all very deliberate, designed to pull you in.
And the purpose wasn't connection.
According to this view, no. The purpose was essentially to feed off your emotional energy and chip away at your self-worth.
Wow. Okay, so then, things that happen in relationships, arguments, criticism, how does this source reframe those?
It puts them in a really harsh light. It specifically mentions gaslighting, and, making you doubt your reality, emotional blackmail, constant criticism.
Yeah.
It calls them tools of control, not like unhealthy communication patterns, but actual tools used deliberately.
Tools of control, not just bad relationship habits.
Exactly. And it goes further. Things like cheating, lying, lacking empathy. The source labels these deliberate acts of exploitation, not just mistakes or flaws.
So if you put all that together, it really shifts the narrative away from, say, a relationship failing towards something more like escaping danger.
That's precisely the framing, which leads to that really powerful statement you mentioned earlier. You broke free from a toxic nightmare.
And it credits the person with immense courage and strength for getting out. That's a very empowering perspective shift.
It is. And a really key piece of this perspective is the claim that narcissists are incapable of genuine love.
Incapable.
Yeah, that they only mimic it for personal gain. So from this viewpoint, what was experienced wasn't love that failed. It was never really love to begin with. It was something else.
Something else. The text uses this phrase, source of supply, and a tool for their ego. What does that mean, practically?
Think of it like you're the person providing the validation, the attention, maybe even resources that the other person needs to feel okay about themselves. Your role isn't about a reciprocal bond. It's about, supplying their needs.
Okay. That's a bleak picture of the dynamic.
It is. But then the source pivots towards healing.
Right. It does shift. It talks about reclaiming yourself, finding authentic love.
Absolutely. Building a life with meaning and joy. There's a really strong overcurrent, really, of self-worth.
Yeah, I saw that. It says very directly, you deserve real love, genuine connection, and healthy relationships.
You deserve to be seen, heard, and valued. It's like a direct antidote to that erosion of self-worth the text claims happens in these dynamics.
And it wraps up with that hopeful line, you are worthy of love, and it will find you.
So summing up this deep dive into just this one source, it offers this lens where the end isn't a loss, it's an escape from exploitation, highlighting your strength, your courage, and your fundamental worthiness of something real.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. If you've been through a really tough breakup, consider, just for a moment, looking at it through this specific lens described in the source. This idea of manipulation versus genuine connection. What happens if you try on that perspective? How might it change how you see yourself or how you approach relationships going forward? Definitely some food for thought there.